This is your Unit 1A, Day 1 review video. Everything that you see in your review videos will be on your assessment. So if you are confused while you are practicing these skills with me in this video, it is important that you find a time to reach out to me and ask for help. I would be happy to meet with you outside of class to practice and prepare for your test if you feel like you need that extra support. So the first thing here, number 1, is we are going to take this number and we are going to practice graphing it. Now, we know that when we see a fraction, that it is difficult to graph it on a number line. So our first step is to convert it to a decimal. And we convert a fraction to a decimal by dividing the numerator by the denominator. So here, 8/5 would be equivalent to 8 divided by 5. And 8 divided by 5 is equal to 1 6/10. So remember, you can simply, on any calculator, type in 8 divided by 5 and you'll get this answer of 1 6/10. Or on your fraction plus calculator, you just type in 8/5 and hit enter. And in the right-hand corner, it gives you what 8/5 is equivalent to in decimal form. Okay, so now that we've changed our fraction to a decimal, we are going to put it on the number line. When we graph a positive number on the number line, the whole number tells us the first number on the left. It is 1 6/10. So we know that it is a little bit more than 1, so it has to be between 1 and 2. So it's somewhere between 1 and 2. Each of these lines represents a tenth. So we would count 6 of them and we'd end up here. So 1 6/10 on the graph would be plotted right here. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When you're plotting numbers on a number line, you need to pay attention to how many markers are in between the numbers. Okay? Here we have 10, so we know that each one of these is equivalent to 1/10. That's why 1 6/10 is marked right here. Okay, now we go to this next one. We have 3 4/10. This is already in decimal form, so I do not need to convert it to decimal form. I just need to plot it on the number line or graph it on the number line. So I see my whole number 3, so I know that it's somewhere between 3 and 4 because it's 3 4/10, so we know it's a little bit more than 3. We already determined on these number lines that each one of these points is worth 1/10. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 4/10 would be right here. All right, perfect. So these are 2 examples I did for you. Your job now is to pause the video and try these next 2 on your own. Okay, when you tried these on your own, hopefully you got the same answer as me. We have 4 2/10, which is between 4 and 5 right here. Then we have 19/5. First we convert it to a decimal, 19 divided by 5, and we can answer 3 8/10, so we know it's between 3 and 4. If you are not getting these decimal answers correct when you're doing them on your own, you need to check and make sure that you're entering them into the calculator accurately. When you are dividing, when you look at a fraction, which is actually a division problem, we type in the number on top, the numerator, and second is the number on bottom. So you read it kind of like a book, 19 divided by 5 from top to bottom. So if you're not putting it in the calculator that way, you're not going to be getting the correct answer. When you divide it, what number you put in first matters. So here, 19 divided by 5, 3 8/10. Let's go to the next page. On this page, you are going to first do standard 1B, create symbolic representation. So you're going to read the scenario here and write down what it would look like as a number sentence or symbolic representation of the situation. So here we have Maria has $45. I'm going to highlight that because it's important information. She starts with $45. Then she goes to the clothing store and spends $25. So right here, I know that she starts with 45. So I'll write 45. And then the keyword here is spends. If you are spending money, you have less money. So that is subtraction because it is decreasing. It is getting smaller. So 45 minus 25. And you do not need to solve. You just need to write this as an expression. Let's do one more together. Mason found 3 coins at the beach. So he starts with 3 coins. He lost one on his way home. When we know that he starts with 3, and then he loses 1. If you are losing something, that means you have less. So that is subtraction. 3 minus 1. So copy this into your notes, and then pause the video and complete these 3 on your own. Okay, hopefully you tried these on your own and you got the same answer as me. Brittany starts with 10. Deposits, if you're depositing, you're putting money in, that's an increase. So that would be addition. 10 plus 34. Sam wore a pair of earrings. If you have a pair of earrings, that's 2 earrings. So you start with 2 and then lost 1. When you lose something, that's a decrease. So that's minus 1. Tony had $40 in his bank account this morning and withdrew 12 at noon. So Tony started with 40 and then withdrew 12. When you're withdrawing money, you're taking it out. So that means it's a decrease. There's less money. So it's 40 minus 12. All right. Make sure that you have the correct information in your notes before you move on. Now here we are going to be working on standard 2A, rewriting and evaluating expressions. We're going to evaluate each expression below. On your formative, many of you struggled with this because it said this word evaluate and you were confused. Well, this is an expression right here. We are trying to figure out what the value is or solve this problem. When we have these 2 lines right here, it means absolute value. And absolute value is how far a number is from 0. So the absolute value of -5 is +5 because it is 5 steps away from 0. Now, if we look at number 3, we're trying to find the absolute value of 20, and we know it's the absolute value again because it has these lines around the numbers. These lines are different than parentheses. They're not parentheses, they're straight lines. When you see straight lines, you know that you're trying to find the absolute value. Now, the absolute value is how far a number is away from 0. 20 is 20 steps away from 0, so the answer will be 20. A common mistake that I see is people assume that it's just the opposite. So if you see, for example, a positive 62, you're like, oh, that's negative 62. And not true. Absolute value is how far a number is away from 0. So the answer will always, always be positive. So the absolute value of 62 would be 62. Okay, you're going to pause the video and try the rest of these on your own. Okay, hopefully you tried these on your own and you remembered the absolute value. When you're finding the absolute value, it is always a positive number. So here we go. 13, 124, 3, 22, 13, 2, 54, 92, and 0. So this is a unique situation. The absolute value of 0 is 0. 0 is not a negative or a positive number, but we know that 0 is 0 away from 0. All right, let's move on to the next page. On this page, you are going to be solving these problems using your calculator. Use your calculator. Guess what? Use your calculator. Oh, wait. Use your calculator. What should you do? Use your calculator. What should I do, Miss Pricing? Oh, use my calculator. when you're using your calculator, you need to make sure that you're typing in the negative and the positive signs. If you don't know how to do that, then reach out and ask for help, and we can show you how to do that on your phone calculator, your iPad calculator, your TI-84 calculator. I'm hoping that's the calculator everybody has. You really will have a much easier time in this class if you have that calculator. If you are having a hard time finding that calculator, again, ask me for help and we'll figure it out, okay? So with these problems, you are just going to type this in your calculator, so I'm not going to give you an example. The only thing I want you to really remember is that this right here, a fraction means to divide. And when you have a number next to a parentheses, that means to multiply. This is a multiplication problem. And when you look right here, number 6 is different. And why is it different? Because there's this subtraction symbol separating the parentheses. The purpose behind these parentheses is to show that this is a negative number. So this is 2 minus negative 6, and this is negative 4 times negative 5. The difference between these two is that there is an operation symbol. There is a subtraction symbol here. So if you have a subtraction or an addition symbol separating the number and the number in the parentheses, that means that you follow this. It's either addition or subtraction. If there is nothing in between, then that means to multiply. So this would be subtraction, and this would be multiplication, okay? So you're going to pause the video and you're going to use your calculator to solve all of these on your own. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you did these on your own and you get them correct. Here we have a negative times a negative, same sign. When we multiply two numbers by the same sign, the answer is always positive. We have number 2. We have a negative divided by a positive. These are different signs, so my answer is negative. Here we go. Negative times a negative equals a positive. Positive times a negative, different signs. Your answer is negative. Now here we have subtraction, negative 4 minus 9. So we would think of this as negative 4 plus negative 9. If we're adding and two numbers have the same sign, the answer is that same sign. We have negative 13. Here we go, we have subtraction, 2 minus negative 6. Remember, when we subtract, we add the opposite, so we would think of this as 2 plus 6, because opposite of negative 6 is positive 6. When we subtract, we add the opposite, 2 plus 6 is equal to 8. All right, here we go. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. A negative divided by a positive, different signs. The answer is negative. Negative 9 plus 2. When we're adding two numbers with different signs, the answer is the same sign as the number with the larger absolute value, or the number that's farthest from 0. Negative 9 is farther from 0 than 2, so my answer is negative. How much more negative? 7. Okay, here we go. We're adding two numbers with the same sign, so the answer is that sign. So negative 1 plus negative 3 is negative 4. When we divide two numbers with the same sign, the answer is always positive. Negative 16 divided by negative 8 is 2. When we divide two numbers with different signs, the answer is always negative. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. All right, when we add two numbers with the same sign, the sign stays the same. So we have a negative plus a negative, so my answer is negative, and 6 plus 2 is 8, so negative 8. And last but not least, got the same thing here. We have a negative plus a negative. When you're adding and they have the same sign, the answer has the same sign. So we have negative here because they're both negative. -9 plus -3 is equal to -12. Again, you guys, when you're doing these, you just type the answer, you just type the problem in your calculator. You don't really have to go through the whole thought process that I did. I did that so that when you go to explain it on your test, you just had one more refresher. So please, 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 please use your calculator. There is no reason to get any of these wrong. Just put it in your calculator and you'll get that correct answer for these one-step equations. All right, on this page, you are going to be using your calculator again to solve all of these problems. You should be getting all of these correct because all you're doing is typing it in your calculator. I would strongly suggest that you use your Fraction Plus calculator on your iPad for these because it's very easy to type in fractions. On your Fraction Plus calculator, you have a spot for the numerator and a spot for the denominator. So you simply would type 3/1 plus 5/4. So 3/1 plus 5/4. What I want you to do right now is you're going to, in your Fraction Plus calculator, you are going to answer these 6 questions. Once you answer these 6 questions, I want you to come back to the video. So pause and do these right now. All right, hopefully you use that calculator and you got the same answer as me. 4 1/4 or 17/4. 1/12. 1 1/5, or you could call that 6/5. 1 4/5 or 18/5. -3/20 and 7/27. When you have a mixed number, or that's like a whole number in a fraction, you can also write it as an improper fraction, which means that the numerator is larger than the denominator. These two numbers are equal. All right, next one. Here you are going to simplify the following fractions. You will use your Fraction Plus calculator. All you have to do on your Fraction Plus calculator is you have your fraction. So let's look at this one right here. I have my fraction, 4/10, and then I just press the equal sign on your Fraction Plus calculator, and it gives you the simplified fraction. So for these ones, if you're using your Fraction Plus calculator, you type in the fraction, the numerator and the denominator, and then hit equal. Okay, hopefully you used your calculator correctly and you got the same answers. 3 2/5, 8/25, 2, 1/3, and 1. Now, this last section on this page, you are going to convert the following numbers to decimals. And remember that if you use your Fraction Plus calculator, when you hit enter in the right-hand corner, you will see the decimal answer. So you could just use your Fraction Plus calculator, or if you wanted, you could type in on your calculator, you take the numerator, -31, and you divide it by the denominator, 100. So -31 divided by 100. Type that in your calculator or use your Fraction Plus and hit enter or equal. You get an answer of -31 hundredths. Okay, so pause the video and use your calculator to answer these following questions. All right, hopefully use your fraction calculator accurately or your regular calculator and you got the same answers. We have 1, -31/10, 5/10, -2/10, 6, and 4 4/10. And let me say this one again, it's -31 hundredths. Okay, all right. Make sure you have the correct information in your notes before you move on to the last page. On this page, you are going to put all of these numbers in order from least to greatest. You do not need to use the number line, but I really think it makes it a lot easier. So I would suggest doing it because that way you know that you've done the work accurately. If you're confident in your ability to order negative and positive numbers without the number line, then go ahead and try and you'll see if you did it right, okay? So big thing that you need to remember is when you have a fraction, you need to convert it to a decimal before you put it on the number line, because that way you can easily see which number is bigger. It is hard to compare fractions to decimals. It's much easier if they are all in decimal form. All right, and remember, when you're putting them on a number line, you are just putting in roughly where it is between these two numbers, because it does not have any marks to show exactly where the tenths place is located between these two. All right, so you're going to pause the video and do this on your own. All right, hopefully you did these on your own. I did not use the number line, but they are still in order from least to greatest, and this is the part you should be checking right now. So you have negative 30/4, negative 2.9, negative 2.2, negative 4/4, negative 0.5, 5, 17/5, 63/10, and 6.7. All right. If you did not have this correct, I want you to look back and see where your mistake was and fix it. All right, this concludes your very long review day 1 video. Good job sticking with it.